970 WGTK gives you Let's Talk with Dr. Stan Frager. From relationship problems to family feuds, he's got all the advice and expert help you'll need. Dr. Frager is here ready to lend an ear or a shoulder if you need it. Now, here's Dr. Stan Frager.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Always nice to have you with us. Every Sunday night we get together from 8 until the 10 o'clock hour, talking about those things that hopefully make your life a little bit better, something very interesting that you can help others with. And in this day and age, I think it's important that we learn those things. We're going to talk this first hour about teenage violence, and violence is all around us. Just today in the news in New York, I think, a person gets mugged, lays on the street, and hundreds of people walk by. The person ends up dying, and nobody stops to help. Unbelievable. And so violence is everywhere we turn. And what do we do about it, and how are we going to handle it? And what about teen dating violence? You know, we see things about teenagers meeting each other on Facebook and some of these other social networks. And sometimes you wonder, why would somebody let themselves into a relationship like that? And we'll have the answers. We have some wonderful experts with us tonight. And so let me introduce you to a couple of our guests. And first is Jennifer Richardson, who is a licensed psychological associate. And I should mention that we thank the Kentucky Psychological Association, who one of our Sundays a month helps us in terms of bringing us interesting guests. And Ms. Richardson received her bachelor and master's degree in clinical psych from Spalding University. She is a member of our Kentucky Psychological Association, serves on their early career psychologist committee. She has 10 years experience working with low-income children and their families in a variety of settings, and currently is with the Impact Plus program through Boys and Girls Haven and Transformations. And also with us is Dr. Professor Eli Karam, who is a professor at the University of Louisville and our Kent School of Social Work, and who is a licensed marriage family therapist and has a great deal of experience in this area. In any event, let me get started. Let's talk a little bit. Ms. Richardson, I know that you've been doing a lot of work in this area. What are we talking about when we talk about teen dating violence and teen dating violence?
Well, just as with adult dating violence, we're basically talking about a pattern of abuse or control that happens between two dating partners. Violence and abuse can come in a variety of forms, but it usually categorizes into physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, to name a few.
Well, again, my experience is when it comes to teen violence, it isn't like this mugging that happened in New York.
Right.
Teen violence is something that's a slow process that starts. It starts with a relationship. It
is, and some of the things that I've read say that most of the teen violence, like 71%, is more emotional abuse than anything else. A lot of controlling, a lot of humiliation. Teens and adolescents are so honed into their social life. Their friends are their life, and so much of what happens with their friends and peers affects them. So a lot of times abuse will come in the form of, again, humiliation, isolation, being put down in front of their peers, that kind of thing.
Well, how does it begin? I mean, we hear stories about Facebook, mm-hmm. and let me ask along with that, there's this question of if parents try and monitor their child on Facebook, a teenage daughter, mm-hmm. it's kind of, well, don't you trust me? And mm-hmm. you're looking over, you're spying on me. how do you reach that balance between the sense of the parent is spying or they're not being fair, to where also you don't let your daughter get herself in a whole lot of trouble?
Right. I think it's a balance, certainly. I really think it starts early on, even, 5th and 6th grade, when kids are really just starting to be interested in having kind of dating relationships or interested in the opposite sex, is the time to really start talking about what is appropriate in a relationship and what's healthy in a relationship, so that you can start modeling that early. I think that adolescents are probably always going to not like their parents being in their business, but parents are going to have to make those hard decisions and, have that give and take of trust, so that they should be able to ask them honestly about their Facebook accounts, ask them why they're receiving 100 texts a day from the same person.
Okay, but the operational word is should.
Should, yes.
Should. And the problem with should is now the young lady is 14, 15, 16, and the parents haven't built that trusting, close relationship. So it's not seen, it's seen as being intrusive and don't you trust me kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So what do you do then?
Well, I think, again, it is taking kind of the tough love approach, but I think you still have to sit down and explain maybe why you're doing it. But I think it's a necessary precaution to take. I think knowing the flags and looking for warning signs. If you're seeing something that makes you uncomfortable or makes you think that your son or daughter is in a relationship or is doing something online with another person that is inappropriate or that would worry you, you got to go with your gut. And, if your adolescent or your teen is going to be upset by that may be something you have to deal with.
Just live with.
I think it is.
Dr. Karam, how prevalent is this problem?
I think about 1/3 of high school, in a recent survey, 1/3 of high school students would report either directly or indirectly being involved in some type of dating violence. But mostly, we find interesting, 80% of parents say that this, it's something that's under their radar and they don't know. And getting back to what we were saying earlier, I think it's kind of awkward both for the parent and the teenager to start having conversations around sexuality, around dating. So rather than waiting for a problem to arise, I think the model we would promote is healthy relationship education early on. And this idea that, if you get into the habit of talking with your child early on and make it a focus of relationship help, you really only know 2 relationships, that of the one which you're in and that of your parents. So if you don't have a blueprint, a model for what a relationship looks like or how to talk about it, kind of a family check-in or State of the Union, it's hard just to pick that up in the teenage years. So it's easier if you start earlier, definitely. Doesn't mean you should not miss the warning signs, as we're saying. But I think in general, parents, some think, well, I don't know, it's awkward talking to my child about sex or relationships. And then others say, well, my child is, they're doing well in school. They have friends. This could never happen to my son or daughter. But it does. It happens to...
we have a lot of families. They go to church regularly. They say, well, my daughter is a good Christian girl, good Jewish boy, whatever. Oh, they wouldn't do a thing like that. It doesn't matter. But it can happen to anybody, anytime. It really doesn't relate as much to socioeconomic kind of levels, does it?
No, I don't think it discriminates. Absolutely. Yeah. There's some research that shows that certain groups are at more of a risk, but certainly where you live and how much you make doesn't exempt you from this kind of violence. I just want to reiterate that if you don't have that model, teens are so inexperienced with dating relationships. They don't know, so they don't know what's appropriate and what's not appropriate.
And then sometimes they'll blow a parent off, but the message is heard. The most influential person in our life
absolutely.
is still our parent, for better or for worse. And they may say, oh, dad or oh, mom, what are you talking about? I know that, blah, 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 and so forth. And on as parents, on our radar screen, it looks like I just got dissed and, passed on. but it's still the most influential piece in their life.
Hear it, sure.
Yeah, they'll still hear it. And if not parents, because some people say, some teenagers I know that I'm working with in my practice, even in the context of family, well, I just can't talk to my mom about that, or I can't talk to my dad about that. But they can talk to another non-supportive adult or non-parental adult. They could talk to a teacher, a friend. So just the idea that, to look for the warning signs. I think we should talk about those. If you have a normally well-adjusted child that's balanced as far as school activities, friends, and they start to withdraw, or this is their first relationship, and they are spending an inordinate amount of time with their new partner, and they go from being kind of joined at the hip and then disengaging, and you should be looking for that. Exactly.
The lines are open. We welcome your calls, 571-2428, 571-CHAT. Put you right here, 571-2428. We welcome your calls and your comments. I'm Dr. Stan Frager. Be right back.
To speak to life coach Dr. Stan Frager, call now, 571-2428. That's 571-2428.